Apple just dropped their new iPhones lineup, and today we're having a first look at what they are bringing in. Let's begin. Let's start with the simple one, the iPhone 17, because this one has received minor upgrades, but important ones, starting with the screen. We're finally getting 120Hz adaptive refresh rate. Finally. Apple also says it's brighter, going up to 3000 nits in peak brightness. Design-wise, we don't really have any changes, to be completely honest. Maybe some slight tweaks here and there. Another important upgrade is the selfie camera, which now has a square sensor. So traditionally, when you want to take a selfie, you look at your phone like this, so that's vertical orientation. If you want to make a selfie with a group of people, let's say maybe 3 or 4, you would need to do this, to put your phone into landscape orientation. Well, with the new sensor, the square sensor, you don't need to do that anymore. You can simply hold it like that, vertical position, and you can swap to landscape mode, because the camera actually does not use the whole sensor all the time. This actually is a very good idea, and I'm not entirely sure why we haven't seen it so far. Good job on that. The rear cameras have also got an upgrade, or at least the ultra wide one. Now, both cameras on the back will benefit from a 48 megapixel sensor. This will close the quality gap between the main and the ultra wide camera, and it's always welcome. We also got a new chip, the A19, the simple variant, which has 6 CPU cores and 5 GPU cores. Apart from that, no major changes, just slightly incremental updates. We will see more details about the performance and how it actually behaves in real life a bit later on this autumn. Let's move up to the Pro models, because these ones have gotten the biggest upgrade so far. We finally see a noticeable change in the design, and obviously we're talking about the backplate. Design-wise, we got back to aluminum instead of titanium, and the Pro and Pro Max are now made of a unibody frame. Apple says that aluminum alloy is used for better thermal conductibility, and I tend to believe that. However, the past 2 years they've been heavily marketing that titanium frame, and now it does not really make any sense. Also, the 3 colors are looking pretty nice, especially the orange one, for me at least. And the biggest and most obvious change is the backplate, which looks pretty similar to what we see on a Google Pixel. However, Apple says that they have reasons to do that. In that backplate, next to the cameras, we will find some important components of the phone, like the CPU or storage, for example. By taking those components and pushing them upwards next to the camera, you now have more space for a proper vapor chamber, which will help a lot with dissipating the heat coming from the components through the whole frame of the phone. This can bring actually a major improvement to the performance of the phone. To be completely honest with you, I haven't really seen any iPhone to not go overheating, and if this vapor chamber does what Apple says it does, it will actually be a game changer for Apple, at least. We'll stay at the back plates and we will talk a bit about the cameras. So the ultra-wide that got the 48 megapixel sensor is still there, but now the telephoto will get a 48 megapixel sensor as well, which again will bring some improvements. However, Apple is misleading us a bit into thinking that now you can reach 8 times optical zoom, which is definitely not true. They're saying something like 8 times optical-like zoom. In reality, we have a 4 times optical zoom, of which we make a crop and we get that 8 times. I'm not entirely sure about the quality. They've obviously done some things here and there to make it look good, but saying like it's a real 8 times optical zoom is simply misleading and not true. The selfie camera is the same, the square sensor, the center staged camera, which we like, obviously, and improvements on the camera side do not stop here. On the video side of things, we can now film in ProRes RAW, which is one of the best standards in the industry as of now. Also, we now have Genlock, which again is an amazing feature that can be used in various ways by content creators. And on top of that, we add stuff like Apple Lock 2 and 4K 120 120 FPS Dolby Vision. So I guess, and I'm pretty sure about it, that Apple will remain the best phone, or at least the 17 Pro, will remain the best phone when it comes to video filming and editing. Very nice. We also have a new chip here, the A19 Pro, which has 6 CPU cores and 6 GPU cores, each of them having their own neural engine, and it's supposed to be the most powerful CPU in a phone. We'll see how true is that when the newer chips coming from Qualcomm will be integrated into newer releases at the end of this year, beginning of next year. Apple also says that they have increased the battery capacity, and this new chip is supposed to be even more efficient than the last generation. And the 17 Pro Max will have 4 more hours of video playback. I personally, I know Apple never says the battery capacities and stuff, but this is just frustrating. I mean, when it comes to Apple, we don't really talk in watt hours, we talk in, I don't know, YouTube hours or Netflix hours. Such a shame. Apart from that, we have the same improved screen going up to 3000 nits, and that's pretty much it. Also, I find it very interesting and very cool that we can play games with hardware ray tracing acceleration on a phone. And the last phone on the list, and the elephant in the room, the iPhone 17. Oh wait, just Air. The iPhone Air, not 17 Air. This is a 5.6 millimeter thick phone, and on the paper it actually sounds amazing. They have used titanium for the frame so they can get that thickness. We have the same backplate as we find on the 17 Pro, but a bit smaller. So there you go, you have a lot of major components going there. Only one camera at the back, which would be the main camera from the 17 and 17 Pro, and a 6.5-inch screen. Again, 120 Hz, 3000 nits in peak brightness, and we also have a 19 Pro as the chip, which will only have one less GPU core compared with the A19 that we find on the 17 Pro. Now, Apple says that it will go through a day of usage. It won't. Or if it does that, that would be simply mind-blowing. As simple as that. But maybe Apple proves us wrong. We'll see the real world test, but until then, I prefer to stay pragmatic. But other than that, to pack in so much stuff into a 5.6mm thick phone, that's pretty impressive, I'm not gonna lie. Also, this phone is supposed to come as a replacement for the old Plus iPhones. Well, old, like the 16 Plus and 15 Plus, which, as far as I'm aware, have not been the success that Apple was waiting for. Other than that, when it comes to iPhone, Apple has managed to remind us again and again about the amazing Apple Intelligence, which is not amazing at all, and iOS 26, which will roll out on these phones, and it will become official. In terms of pricing, the iPhone 17 will start at $799 the same as the last year's generation, which is good. The iPhone Air will start at $999. A bit pricey if you ask me, but that's the price you pay for the R&D maybe, which was involved into this phone. The iPhone 17 Pro will start at $1099, and the 17 Pro Max will start at $1199. Again, the same pricing as the last year's generation, which again is good and surprising. Also, big thumbs up for Apple for finally putting a minimum of 256 gigabytes of storage on each iPhone in the lineup. So yeah, now no matter what iPhone you're buying, starting with the 17 generation, you will get a minimum of 256 gigabytes of storage. Other than that, Apple has also launched a new line of Apple Watches, which wasn't really interesting, but they are simply solidifying their position on the market and basically making sure they remain not the leader, but the company with the best smartwatches in the world. And they also launched a new line of AirPods, which are supposed to have the best active noise cancellation. I'm not entirely sure, I wasn't really interested into those things, but well, they are there, and they are probably an improvement over the last generations. I'm pretty sure about that. Now, I want to hear your opinion about the new iPhones. What do you think of them? Do you think this launch has been a bit more interesting than what we've seen in the past 2 years? I personally believe so, but that's only because of the new Pro models. Also, if you have an iPhone, would you consider upgrading to one of these three? Or if you have an Android, would you actually consider switching to an iOS device now? iOS device. I'm waiting for your comments down below, as well as feedback for our channel. That's it from me. If you like this video, we have plenty more on the channel and plenty more coming up. A like, a share, and a subscribe would be very helpful and very appreciated. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.